This is James Morgan, NWA and Mach 1 Wrestling Superstar.
This is Chris Masters, the Masterpiece.
This is Downtown Bruno.
This is Eric Watts from WWE Tough Enough.
Mikey Nova.
Hey, what's up? This your boy, Sean Black.
This is Jess Bella from Santino Brothers.
Gorgeous Joey Chaos.
Yo, monkeys, it's me, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, and you are watching Dads on Wrestling.
The Dads on Wrestling.
Dads on Wrestling.
Dads on Wrestling.
On YouTube.
Week on YouTube.
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
On YouTube. Now stay tuned or you will feel the bang!
Jeff Meacham Network Multiverse. Acknowledge us. We are the Dads, not always on wrestling. We're live. Far too got him early on Tuesday, for being honest. But that's okay because it worked out for us. I am, according to the group, apparently, your tribal chief, the head of the table, at least at the Jeff Meacham Network side of things. Good old JM Jeff Meacham. Over here, the Renegade. Not of wrestling today, but the Renegade, JJ Williams. And JJ, you know, we keep coming around to this discussion we had all those months ago of scaling back. We're going to pull back. We're going to do less things. Shit, we got shit going on 2 or 3 times a day this week.
Right?
This is the workload that never ends, but I am here for it, by God.
This is the way.
Such a lot of so many good things going on this week. We've got Stat Boy Sports Bar coming up later. We've got the Greg Cherry Show and our Dynamite Watch Along tomorrow. We've got, I think, 45 different streams on Thursdays, right around there. Same with Friday, for being honest. And then the weekend with our shenanigans of open mic night. Just a lot of cool stuff coming up. But we originally had this show, as dads generally do, come up for Friday, and we were going to pre-tape it and do the whole canned deal, but it's like, you know what? He had a good point. We have a watch along on Friday as it is, you know, so we don't want to take away from the live feel of Rampage Grand Slam, because if we're being honest, that's going to be a canned effort in and of itself from AEW. So we don't want to have a back-to-back canned situation, even though we'll be broadcasting our coverage of Grand Slam live. We got time in the morning. Let's do this thing. Let's go ahead and do Dads live. The vibe's always better when we go live, you and I.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to Big G in the chat room.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just felt like, you know, Friday already going to have one of my reviews go live.
Yes.
We're going to have the watch along go live across the multiverse. Work in progress, by the way. I am working on lyrics to turn the Beatles Across the Universe into Across the Multiverse.
Ooh, okay.
But yeah, I just felt like, you know what? Tuesday, we got Stat Boy Sports Bar going live. Stat Boy Sports Bar is already kind of your abnormal content for both of our channels.
Accurate. Very true.
So why not just go ahead and get a Dads out there too, since we're both available, since we can both do it live.
Yes.
You know, rather than having, like you said, just another canned product on Friday.
Yeah.
It just, it just seemed to make more sense to me. And
It just feels right. Yes.
yeah, and trying to squeeze a live in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon
Yeah.
pretty much is a no-go these days because the kids get out of school at 3:30.
Accurate.
So, trying to do a 2-hour live on a Friday leading into a watch along just is virtually impossible.
It is. It's a challenge and then some, unfortunately.
As it is, Noah's had to rearrange his schedule for his Simply Predictings to put those at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific, just so I can be involved in
Right?
the WWE ones because I don't even get home until 5 or 10 after 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And most of his crew is East Coasters, so he usually tries to go live at like 2 o'clock our time, 5 o'clock his time.
Yes.
So it just felt right. It just made sense. Again, I saw you throw it up on the bottom there. Greetings, Pop. Good to see you.
Yes. Always good to see Jerry.
I do want to bring attention to the ticker at the bottom to everybody watching. This is going to be a little bit different today. Feel free to post your favorite rock and roll lead singers. We will click on the comments and highlight them across the bottom. But if you super chat a name that is not on our list, then as soon as we get done talking about whoever we're in the middle discussing at that point in time, we will bring your super chat up and discuss that person. A little bit more fan interactivity, a little bit more of a incentive for you guys to super chat us a little bit more.
Exactly. Incentive is the key. Just
Now,
and again,
full disclosure.
Yes.
Full disclosure. Jeff has been running himself ragged lately, so he did not have the time to put into coming up with his own list. So we have a joint list.
Yes.
I'm going to be doing a lot of the talking here.
Quite so.
Which is why we let him do the introduction and the initial, spewing of words and all that good stuff. And this was a tricky one because rock and roll in and of itself is, as we always say on the show, subjective.
Yes.
You think about rock and roll and everyone's got a different definition of what rock is.
Yes.
And what constitutes a great rock and roll lead singer? Is it their voice? Is it their range? Is it their stage presence? What constitutes a great lead singer? So I had originally come up with 8 names. And I told Jeff my 8 names, didn't have them ranked yet. I was like, can you think of anybody else?
Right.
And he threw me a name, which went ahead and I added to the list because, he came up with a name. Yay, Jeff, you did the thing.
I did the thing. I contributed today.
His suggestion, of course, led me to another name. So that rounded up our top 10.
Yes.
And then we have a few honorable mentions. And so really it's a top 15 because I have 5 honorable mentions. And honestly, the reason they're honorable mentions, there's a couple reasons.
Yes.
Right, so we'll just jump into this. We're going to do the honorable mentions first to kind of lead to the main list.
And we have a reason for that. You'll see very clearly.
Long-term storytelling, right, Meacham?
Yes, long-term storytelling. That's what we do on the Jeff Meacham Network, Multiverse of Media. So coming soon to your local album store, apparently, across the multiverse. And I'm both intrigued and scared of that, but that's okay.
So kicking off the honorable mentions, honorable mention number 5, if you will, is honestly one I added just because I felt 4 honorable mentions was just kind of awkward.
Yes, even though it's odd.
But it was somebody that I seriously thought about for my list, as I do love the music of the band. I do, yes.
Great question by Pop in the chat room, just for clarification.
Correct.
Yes,
Now,
lead
some of
singers.
these people have had solo careers,
Yes.
but we are
Yeah.
discussing them as the front person of a band.
Good question, Jerry. Great.
Yes.
Bravo, sir.
So the first person to get acknowledged, like I was saying, is somebody that I was seriously considering for top 10 contention.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, I don't know. I didn't know like how well it would go over.
Right.
To put this person in top 10 contention and leave out somebody that did make the cut.
Right.
So number 10 is Bret Michaels from Poison.
Okay.
I mainly got into their music towards the end of their heyday.
Yes.
The Flesh and Blood album was the first one I really listened to. Hits like Unskinny Bop, Something to Believe in, Ride the Wind.
Absolutely.
Even though you can go back earlier in their discography and you've got things like Fallen Angel, Every Rose Has Its Thorn, Look What the Cat Dragged In, Nothing But a Good Time, their cover of Your Mama Don't Dance and Your Daddy Don't Rock and Roll.
Which is a great cover.
You know, but I've always enjoyed Bret's voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got a great rock and roll sound to his voice, in my opinion.
Right, exactly.
So that's
Brett,
where that came in.
Yeah, unfortunately for, I won't say our generation, but like the tail end of our generation and the generation after, Bret Michaels' legacy will not be one solely of musical performances.
No.
I mean, hey, I'm sure they made beautiful music together, him and his partners, but that's a whole other episode of Dads. Anyway,
and then there's the reality show era too. You know, think of Rock of Love with Bret Michaels.
Yes, that's fair. I forgot all about that shit.
You know, I used to watch that show on a regular. I love Rock of Love.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately for all of us, Rock of Love spun off into Flavor of Love, and we don't.
Yeah, I don't honestly remember which was first. I think Flavor of Love was actually first.
Was it?
And then they went to Rock of Love. I could be wrong.
I'll have to
Stat Boy can fact check us and put it in the comments, you know, later on. But
if he's awake.
Even if he's not awake, he can go back later, watch it, put it in the comments.
There you go.
But yeah, like I said, Bret Michaels, I just felt was a great way to come into things.
Absolutely.
The next honorable mention very well could be the most controversial honorable mention. And he's only an honorable mention because I never was the biggest fan of the band.
Yes.
But you can't deny Mick Jagger.
Yes, exactly. And I pointed out to Jay that if we didn't mention Mick at some point, I couldn't go home today to face my father because that would be a thing.
Absolutely. You know, again, you think about the Stones music, man. You think about Satisfaction, Brown Sugar, you know, Sympathy for the Devil, Beast of Burden.
Man,
Start Me Up.
Yeah, and the thing about the Stones is, yes, he's honorable mention. Again, disclosure, JJ primarily spearheading the list, and, you know, not everybody is a fan of everybody. Subjective. So I definitely wanted to throw the Stones on there. I grew up, like, if the Stones wasn't playing on, actually back then it would have been K-Earth, not satellite radio, because we're not that froofy at that point in our lives, where we had satellite on the regular because, you know, we were, you know, hot shit. But K-Earth, when it was actually playing songs that are older than us, unlike today, would play the Stones on the regular, and we would hear, you know, and God, and they were still, we were all in the cars amazed that, man, the freaking Voodoo Lounge tour of '94, those guys are still going. They're still going now. 30 years after the Voodoo Lounge tour.
Yeah.
Like, God damn. Oh, we got Jericho going.
I see that. I see that. Just, I think you'll understand, Pop, when we start to get to the top 10. I think you'll understand.
And Jerry was there for our British Invasion karaoke show. He knows exactly how high in regard the majority of us hold Mick and the Stones. So don't quite cast the Rolling Stone at us just yet, Jerry. We'll get there. We'll get there. I promise.
I have a feeling I'm going to hear a lot of crap from my dad about this list now.
This is going to be an interesting couple hours, I think.
Right there. I already have a feeling I'm going to hear some shit from him.
You can hear the rumblings down in St. Pete. It's like, oh, shit. That's going to be a whole other kind of hurricane hitting soon. Rocky Like a Hurricane's another great song that just pop my head right now. But anyway. I'm sorry. Carry on.
No, Kansas isn't on here.
But damn it, they should be. Just for the sheer troll of it all. Anyway.
No, they shouldn't.
Oh, come on.
So the next one, technically the next two.
Yes.
Are on here simply because I felt, at least, and I know Jeff will co-sign with me on this, there's no definitive lead singer in the bands.
Yes, right.
Every member of the band sings.
Which is why they're here. Let's be clear.
That's why they're honorable mentions and they're not listed in the top 10.
Because we about to get God otherwise.
And those two bands are the Eagles.
Yes.
And the Beatles.
Yes. Okay. Because putting these bands down here, neither one of us can go see our fathers for like a month at this point. So just hang on. Just back up for a second, guys.
Yeah. But again, it's hard to single out who the true front man, lead singer of these bands are.
Yes, exactly.
Now, granted, Joe, Timothy had less songs than Glenn and Don.
Yes, absolutely.
George, Ringo had less songs than John and Paul.
Right.
But still, on any given day of the week, you can flip a coin to determine, is it Glenn and Don or John and Paul that are the lead singer?
Yep. Any given day, all 8 of them.
And they all have their signature songs within the bands.
Exactly. Okay.
So it became like, how do you really define that?
Right.
Good. I'm glad Pop is good with me on that one because
yeah.
I did go back and forth about putting Paul and John specifically on here because post-Beatles, there was John Lennon and the Plastic Ono Band.
Yes.
Clearly the defined lead singer there.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney and Wings.
Yeah.
Clearly the defined lead singer there.
Right.
But, and this is no disrespect to either of their solo careers, the Beatles was where it was at.
Let's say the Beatles was the Beatles. That's
that's the tweet. Like, seriously.
Acknowledge them, by God. They are the GOAT. And the Eagles, again, like I said, couldn't mention them, not mention them at all without being completely dissed the hell owned. But yeah, you had, Hotel California, which is primarily Don on lead. You had Take It Easy, which is one of my favorites, which is primarily Glenn on lead. You had Take It to the Limit, which was a signature song. Wow, okay, it's way too early for me. A signature song for us at the No DQ end of things. That's Randy Meisner's song. And by the way, Randy recently passed away. I don't know if we acknowledged it on the air at all at some point, but shout out to Randy Meisner's family and friends, because that's now 2 of them that are gone with Glenn passing. So it's just hard. Anyway, so yeah, that one of my favorite Eagles songs ever is not even Don or Glenn on lead during the initial run of the song. So, there's that. So we definitely wanted to include both bands, but it's just like, okay, which is the lead singer? Mm-hmm. We can cop out. Honorable mention. Is really what it comes down to. Because again, if we don't mention either of these bands in any way, shape, or form, he and I are living on the streets if we try to go visit our parents. For being real. So,
which, since Pop is in the chat room, I'll go ahead and throw out that, My daughter did ask about going to the Royal Rumble in Florida because we could see Grandpa and we could stay with him.
Yes.
And it's like, that's fair, but let me just break down for you exactly the cost here. Showed her how it was under $700 just for the round trip airfare for me and her to get there. And that didn't even factor in tickets to the show, food, at least 1 day ticket to Disney World, because we can't go to Florida and not go see Disney World, even if it is, 3.5, 4 hours drive from St. Petersburg to Orlando.
Yeah.
We cannot be in the state and not go and see Disney World and not sit at the Country Bear Jamboree and watch the show first time she ever sees it live.
Because then I would disown you for doing
it. Was like, so once I broke that all down, and I was like, and that's not even factoring in, while granted we would have a place to stay, we'd need transportation, because I'm sure Grandpa's not going to drive us to the arena.
No.
It's like, we're looking at close to $2,000.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay.
Yeah.
It's
not
like
Tampa and St. Peter like right next door to each other either.
No.
So
I mean, even though the advertisements are calling it Tampa/St. Petersburg.
Yeah, it's like no. Like Greater Los Angeles, it's like, yeah, that's fine, but the edge of OC, which is like Santa Ana, is still an hour and a half, 2 hours from downtown LA. So let's not bullshit the people completely here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, right. I mean, granted, the Honda Center is Staples Center South, but still.
It's hockey season. Get ready for it. It's going to keep happening now. Shit is on now. Anyway.
So I digress. Back to the topic at hand. So
yes.
That covers the majority of the honorable mentions. Now, the next honorable mention, I'm gonna get the hot tag over here to Jeff so that he can discuss this one, because this is definitely a personal honorable
very
mention
much
for
so.
him.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say it's anything but there she is, Genocide from Paradise Kitty in Paradise Kitty shirt. So I thought that was a cool grab by JJ there. Take me out, put me on for just a second. So the reason we were going to do this show in the first place, it was going to be in October, was the whole way the calendar laid out. Originally, it didn't work out that way because of whatever, but October is Jenna's birthday month. So we were going to have that be like the thread of like, yes, we're doing the top 10 of all time. Yes, we understand that Paradise Kitty is a cover band of Guns N' Roses. Yes, we understand that, she is a wonderful, unbelievably talented singer, but top 10 all time would be a little bit self-indulgent and kind of ridiculous, if we're going to be honest. But you look at this image that I put in there under the one that JJ chose, and just take this shit in for a minute, people. First of all, my dad there, shout out the bottom of the dad there, the freaking bottom of the screen there behind the Mick Foley look like, who I swore to God was Mick for about 5 minutes. Threw the entire cruise off for like, how the hell, wait a minute. That dude had us all rolling. It was funny. Anyway, this is Paradise Kitty on stage. On the stairwell there is Chris Jericho, as a fan, making a point to come out of his private cabin and watch the Kitties do their thing on his cruise. Didn't have to do that. Didn't have to, be part of that. But Paradise Kitty is the reason that my dad and I were on the Jericho cruise in 2021, because Chris booked them, and my dad's like, oh, okay, we'll go. Huh? Okay. So I got my first cruise, and I got to go see, again, I've stated it a few times, and more than a few times in the last 2 years, the memory of my friends in the atrium of the Jericho cruise, surrounded by the entirety of the AEW roster that was on this cruise, watching my friends do their thing. You look up, you go, man, if Lightning hits this boat, I'm good if we go. I'm okay. I'm okay if we sink, because it's not going to get any better. Wrestling and my friend, like literally two of my important lives just together there. When Jeff's Worlds Collide is the thing I put on YouTube, and I got pinged for it. But, yeah, I think either Raw or SmackDown's in St. Pete, if I remember the layout right, Jerry, but I could be wrong on that. It's definitely one or the other. But I just really wanted to make sure that Jenna got included now that we have the list together, because her being an honorable mention is what leads to our start definitively of number 10. Because if we're being honest, and may I go ahead and say number 10 and then explain why? Okay, cool. I did not listen to Guns N' Roses on the regular until I saw Paradise Kitty and heard Jenna belt out the Axl tunes, Axl Rose, number 10, as she do. You know, and the fact that not only did I get to hear the Guns N' Roses songs live, the entire Appetite for Destruction album live before I even heard the actual album on any sort of, you know, streaming service or CD or album or whatever. And the fact that I found out that Axl was the one that gave the approval for the Kitties to be a thing. So much so that when the Guns played the Garden, I forget what year it was, the Kitties played at the after party down the street from the Garden because of the association with Axl. So Guns N' Roses gave Paradise Kitty permission to be Guns N' Roses female. That's my tweet, ladies and gentlemen. But Axl Rose, again, you can't really, you know, as far as definitive frontmen of a band that has just transcended the years, Guns N' Roses and Axl Rose at the front, you have to discuss. Just got to.
Yeah, Axl has always been a controversial enigma of a man.
Yes.
But you want to think rock and roll, you want to think charismatic, you know, stage presence, you want to think voice. Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, Sweet Child of Mine, Patience, Don't Cry. You know, their cover of Live and Let Die, their cover of Knocking on Heaven's Door, November Rain.
Yep.
You know, the list goes on and on.
Welcome to the Jungle This Day is our cowboy football song when the boys come out for to start the first half. They're sitting there in the little inflatable intro tone, and then when they run out of the thing carrying the flags, and it's just like, yeah, it's a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what rock and roll should be, is moments like that.
Absolutely. Guns N' Roses are still on my bucket list as far as a band that I'd like to see live. I know they're definitely past their heyday, past the prime.
Yeah.
But the fact that Axl and Slash were able to kiss and make up, and you've pretty much got the entire Use Your Illusion version of the band back together on tour.
Yes.
I would love to see that.
If they were going to be here any later than, because they're going to be here, like they're being SoCal like soon. They're just expensive as hell. And again, I'm not saying they're not worth it, because they are. But with our budgets being what they are, it's not justifiable. Again, I love the Guns. Shit, pop. Yeah. Oh, we know.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we know. And honestly, so does Jenna, if we're being real. During their shows,
you cannot emulate Axl and not do that shuffle dance, which he straight up jacked from the Daydream Believer video of the Monkees. And if you don't believe me, watch an Axl performance and then watch the video for Daydream Believer.
It's such a thing, JJ. When Chris Jericho joined the Kitties on stage to do Sweet Child, Chris and Jenna are both doing it. And I'm like, this is the thing. This is it. Lightning bolt right now. Just do it. Just take us out. It's not getting any better than this ridiculous visual. Oh, but yes, we got to get this boy out to a Kitties show at some point. I wish we could do the 13th of October in Vegas, because they're playing at Vamped, Danny's, the Count's place, which, goddamn, that's an experience and a half. We'll work on it. We'll get them to see the Kitties. We got to see the Guns at some point before they actually do hang it up for real. But, you know, retirement rock and roll is like retirement wrestling, so we'll see.
I mean, it would be great if GNR could do a tour with the frontman and band of our number 9 pick, because they did try to tour with them in the 90s, but
Yeah.
Axl was Axl.
And
And so, most of those dates kind of fell apart, but I feel like Axl has matured enough in the 23 years that
I'll agree.
a tour between these two now would just be phenomenal. And it is a man who I have seen live. Coming in at number 9, James Hetfield, Metallica.
Yes.
This is the one that Jeff suggested,
I did.
which
And
kind of led me to Axl, because
yeah.
again, I thought of that tour. I thought about the early 90s. I thought about GNR and Metallica, and it was just like, okay, if you're going to have Hetfield, you got to have Axl, I felt.
No, I agree.
But again, man, you think about Hetfield and his vocals, and you think about Metallica's hits, you think about obviously Enter Sandman. Hell, the entire Black album. Sad but
Yeah.
True.
Yes.
You've got The Unforgiven. You've got Seek and Destroy, which the Stinger used in WCW, and then rehashed at Wembley Stadium a few weeks back.
Which was so cool. Such a cool moment, man. People popped like a mucker feather for it. It was great.
Master of Puppets, For Whom the Bell Tolls, 1.
Yeah. It's
but go ahead.
No, I was trying to think how to word it. People, especially people talking about Triple H, talk about how overly obsessed he is with using rock music for promos and for entrance songs. And it's like, spin the Metallica wheel and tell me why it wouldn't be a good reason to use that song for that purpose in wrestling. I'll wait.
Yeah.
They all work. And Metallica is so awesome. My 15-year-old son wanted tickets when they were here recently. My father bought the tickets both nights. Let's just get up for Big Baller Frank here for a minute, if we may. God damn. Those weren't cheap, folks. And my poor father, God bless him and his 68-year-old self, dragging around SoFi Stadium for 2 days out of 3. And the parking lot of Hollywood Park, which, God damn, you guys are horrible down there. And there's so many good track options from Metallica that they didn't do a single repeat song over the course of those 2 days. And everybody was eating every bit of it up. You could hear it down the street, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a low number for purposes of you guys, I'm sure. But again, long-term story.
Yeah. Again, I think y'all will understand when we start to get to some of these other names and voices, like why some of these people are honorable mentions, why they're lower on the list.
Yeah. But again, I brought up Hetfield, and Hetfield led to Axl, which tied into the theme of why we did this in the first place, because of being associated with Jenna and her birthday. So it all tied in together almost like a story thread. JJ does story threads all the time. Wow.
I try.
But I didn't grow up on the Guns music. I didn't really listen to Metallica except when Paul would blatantly pirate for ECW music, if we're being real. So that's why for me they're so low, because I was never a rock and roll proper, 80s rock and roll guy. Beatles, Eagles to an extent, although Eagles is kind of like all over the place. So they've got like elements of country and, all the other stuff. But like hardcore, like rattle your shit rock and roll, never been my bag, baby. But I enjoy both the Guns and Guns N' Roses and Metallica stuff. So.
All right.
Anyway, I went off way on a tangent there.
No, you're good. You're good.
As I do. So.
Number 8. Trying to think of the best way to set this one up, because while I feel like some of the people in the chat
Ah.
room will get it, I feel like there's other people that'll be like, well, he should be below, you know,
Axel and
Hetfield,
James. Yeah, yeah.
Axel. You know, how is this guy on the list and Mick isn't? But this is all preference. Again, I tried to be as objective as possible in my subjectivity.
Right.
Because I was trying to find people who I had a connection to as a lead singer, a vocalist, without just throwing names out there because I felt like it's what the general public would expect.
Right.
You know, truth be told, if this wasn't a joint list, this person very well could be ranked higher for me.
This is fair.
Same with the person we'll have at number 5, and we'll get there when we get there. But number 8 for me, for us, is Aaron Lewis from Stained.
Yes.
And again, some of you may be like, there's no way he deserves to be above James Hetfield and Axl Rose. I feel like his voice is what puts him there over the other two. He's got a much more soulful voice in its rockness, if you will.
Yeah, no,
Not
I
the
agree with
rockness monsters, but you know.
If you know on that one, text us right now, because that's a deep cut, and I love the shit out of that.
But
Seriously,
I mean, I completely missed the hype with their first album. I didn't get into Stained until their second album, Break the Cycle.
right.
That was around the time that they did the Family Values tour.
Yeah.
With Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit. That was around the time that they really started to emerge as like this voice of a generation, if you will.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
for as short-lived as their success was, Aaron Lewis seemed to just strike a nerve in the pulse.
No, I agree with that. He did.
Kind of
really
like the same way that Kurt Cobain did without the tragic end.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
You think about, Outside, It's Been a While, Fade for You. You think about Price to Pay, So Far Away, which is a song that I want played at my funeral.
Yes. That's...
Aaron was able to spiral into a solo career. I never listened to much of his solo stuff.
Yeah.
I want to hear Stained.
Yep.
I don't want to hear Aaron Lewis. Very, very similar for me. And when it comes to Darius Rucker, like Darius Rucker's got a few songs in his new career that I can tap my toe to and I can get behind, but it's like, I want to hear Hootie and the Blowfish.
No, I agree with that.
I don't want to hear Darius Rucker.
No, I agree with
I want to hear No Doubt. I don't want to hear Gwen Stefani. I want to hear Stained.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear Aaron Lewis.
That I can agree with as far as the majority of those. Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm surprised nobody really posting comments in the comments on that one. Okay.
Well, yeah, one way or the other. I figured at least somebody like, what the shit? But yeah, nobody. Nobody.
It's
hey,
all
you know what? If they agree with you, move on. There you go. We'll go with it.
That's fair. Number 7 is another one that some of y'all may feel like that's kind of low for this person, especially when you figure that they've been around since the 70s. And they've had hits in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. I don't think they had hits in the 2010s. I'd have to Google and do my research on that one. But arguably for me, it was the 90s era that really led me to gravitate towards Steven Tyler and Aerosmith.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Again,
Steven there, so young. Oh.
Again, like all of these images, and like I told you off air, I tried to find the images that defined them for me.
Absolutely. as you
know,
should.
the eras of these people that I just admire and loved. And Steven Tyler, again, the 90s, like you think about Crazy, you think about Crying, you think about Living on the Edge, you think about, so I don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, which was technically, I think,
No, that was
2000.
like 98, I think. 97 or 98 was Armageddon.
Yeah, you know what? I always think Armageddon is 2000 because of the pay-per-view, not the movie, because the 6-pack Hell in a Cell, which was way good. But yeah, 98 was Armageddon. You're right. As far as the movie.
Yeah. So and I mean, again, you go back to the 70s, man, you think about Dream On. You think about the original version of Walk This Way, which would get redone in the 80s with Run DMC. You think about Ragdoll, Janie's Got a Gun, Love in an Elevator, Sweet Emotion. You think about, like I said, Living on the Edge, the Alicia Silverstone trilogy, Crying, Crazy, Amazing. Can we just stop and give Aerosmith some props for both Edward Furlong and Alicia Silverstone in their videos there in the 90s?
Things, yeah.
Liv Tyler, of course, also, but I mean, you figure that's his daughter, but
a little bit more,
that kind of launched her into the superstar that she is today by having her in that video.
Yep.
Would Liv Tyler have gotten Empire Records, which spiraled into the movie star that she is today, if it hadn't been the crazy video with Alicia for Aerosmith?
Yeah. Aerosmith was such a lasting impact that a lot of those songs you mentioned, Dream On, Sweet Emotion, especially, were still being played on the regular at sporting events, specifically the Kings. Dream On was one of the major songs they used during the Cup run in 2012.
Yep.
And freaking that was straight Drew Dowdy, because that was all him, like, yeah, keep playing it, and it worked. It was one of those things that all kind of came together. I still say that was one of our, if not our best presentation year from an in-arena standpoint with the Kings, and a lot of it was the music that Brooklyn chose, Aerosmith included. Just such good stuff, and that was in 2012. The picture you put up is like you said, late 80s, early 90s, Steven Tyler, and they're still kicking the ass now. So
think about Aerosmith on SNL doing Wayne's World, singing the Wayne's World theme song with Tom Hanks as their roadie,
which was the greatest part of it, I thought, for me. It's so silly, but it worked. It 100% worked, because Steven at least has the ability, unlike a lot of rock and roll singers, to goober himself in the process of getting something over, which is so important. And Steven's always been able to do that, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
So very important element of a musical frontman is the ability to self-depreciate.
Absolutely. And then again, man, you think about that Get a Grip album, and aside from the songs that I listed off, you had 2 songs that popped up in movies in pretty prominent roles. Because you had Line Up in the Ace Ventura Pet Detective soundtrack, and you had Shut Up and Dance in Wayne's World 2.
That's true. Again,
which had them making a cameo at the very end, for Wayne stock.
Yes. So again, such silly, but because they are who they are, it works almost even more than it should.
Steven and Joe, I think, more than the rest of the band, realized that they had to adapt for the new generation.
Yep.
And what better way to do it than to have an appearance in Wayne's World? Granted, it was Wayne's World 2. It was the weaker of the 2 movies. But they still had that appearance. Like, shit, Alice Cooper's in the first one. We can be in the second one.
Yeah.
And then you think about Steven Tyler popping up in Be Cool.
Yeah,
and the scene that he had with Uma Thurman and John Travolta discussing the origins of Sweet Emotion. Again, it goes back to introducing himself to new generations.
Exactly. And you said it was the week or the two sequels, but if you tie in the fact that they were on Wayne's World on Saturday Night Live, it all ties back together.
It's definitely full circle.
Yeah, exactly. If that was the end of the Wayne's World characters, which for all intents and purposes it was, except for like little bitty clips along the way,
yeah,
tied together, man. Wayne's World came together because of Aerosmith, as far as in terms of the storyline of the show, and then boom, they're at the end. It's great threading, long-term story. All the JJ threads today, all the JJ quotes today.
Trying.
As it should be, by God.
All right. Coming in at number 6. We're just about at the halfway point. Another more modern artist. Another that we tragically lost a few years back.
Yeah.
One that was referenced in the comments was starred. So if you can bring up the starred comment.
I will do
Number
that.
6, Chester Bennington from Linkin Park.
There you go, Daniel. Asking you shall receive.
Yeah, he's right about the middle of the road, Daniel.
Yep.
Again, you could have the same conversation as far as who's the lead singer. Is it Chester? Is it Mike Shinoda? Yes, they both have lead on pretty fair amount of songs. But at the end of the day, Mike Shinoda is a rapper. Chester Bennington is a singer. And every one of their hits has Chester's influence on it.
Every one of them.
Mike may be the lead on it, but you listen closely and you can hear Chester's influence.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I mean, that's one that's always going to rip at the gut because I was lucky enough to see them live 3 times.
Oh, man.
Granted, it was in their early days. It was basically just the Hybrid Theory Meteora era. Like, I didn't really get to see them post Meteora, but still getting to see them that many times in that era, just Chester is somebody that speaks to my soul, and that's part of why he is where he is.
Yeah, they didn't get a lot of play on our show because again, we were still even before the word YouTube or copyright, came together. We were cognizant of using copyrighted material on the old XMV show. But tell you what, the car soundtrack on the road trips to the different locations, oh yeah, Linkin Park was all over the freaking stereo. You kidding me? That's just the way Mike and Aaron rolled. So
piggybacking back to Aaron Lewis, Leave Out All the Rest is another song that I want played at my funeral.
Yep. Exactly.
Whenever that day comes, man, because that song just hits in a way.
Hits hard.
Yeah. And especially now in his departure,
Yeah.
You go back and you listen to the chorus there, when my time comes, forget the wrong that I've done, help me leave behind some reason to be missed.
Yeah.
Don't forget me, and when you're feeling empty, keep me in your memory. Leave out all the rest. Whatever bullshit I may have done, forget that. Just try to focus on and remember the positives.
And there's a beautiful positive in the chat room right now, thanks to your papa.
Yes, I do see the super chat, but he also, when he gave his list, he said to hold off on that. So,
okay, I didn't see the list part. I'm sorry.
But thank you very much. We'll go ahead and bring up the super chat. Thank you very much, Pop, for the super chat. Greatly appreciated as always.
As ever, brother. Yes, thank you, Jerry. Thank you.
And I am going to hold off a little bit later on your list because all but one of your names do come in the top 5 here. Mick, we already discussed as an honorable mention, but so for 3 of your 5 come in our top 5. So I'm definitely going to hold off there.
So we're not totally dead. Cool. Okay.
Right? Speaking of, let's go ahead and we'll move into the top 5.
Yes.
One of the names that he did throw in there in the comments, coming in at number 5. And again, this comes back to the subjectivity because I don't know, aside from the fact that my dad put that in his post there, I don't know how many people would define the band as rock and roll as
Right.
opposed to pop rock,
Yes.
soft rock. But there is no denying the voice. That is Steve Perry.
Absolutely not.
And I mean, everybody knows Don't Stop Believin'.
Yes.
People may know Separate Ways, World Aparts, but Faithfully, Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin', Wheel in the Sky, Lights, which is arguably my favorite Journey song.
Absolutely.
Raised on Radio, which one Sean Hardy used to use as his entrance theme back in the old LBWA days. So, even that era of me had Journey as his entrance theme. Like, Journey is something that I completely blame my mom for. My dad was influenced in Journey too, but my mom was a Journey fanatic.
Straight up her fault. Absolutely.
And I still, to this day, listen to them because they are an amazing band. You want to talk about an underrated lead singer, Steve Perry has to be the top of the list. You want to talk about an underrated guitarist, Neil Schon is definitely at the top of the list. Like, you don't hear people talk about Neil Schon the way that they talk about Eddie Van Halen, Slash, Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Carlos Santana. You hear these names get thrown around as some of the greatest rock and roll guitarists of all time. You never hear people talk about Neil Schon,
which is
criminal. Criminal.
Yeah, which is spelled out with me, Jay. B-E-W shit.
It's bullshit.
Heaping mounds of it at that. Damn. I saw the super chat, but then he added the thing out. That's why I took it down. It's like, okay.
No, that's cool.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean,
yeah, Steve. What's so funny about Journey and Steve being here is that I didn't really get in. I didn't hear Steve do "Don't Stop Believing" first as a song. I first heard that song at karaoke at the Saddle Ranch at Studio Walk. Jesus Christ.
City Walk.
I'm so Disney.
I know what you're talking
City
about.
Walk. Hell. I need to stop going to work so much when I'm not actually working. Go to other places. Yeah, I actually just it came up beautiful karaoke host, like just statuesque blonde karaoke host singing. I was like, damn, that's a good song. And the person I went to the show with, or the karaoke bar with, she was like, oh yeah, that's Journey. I'm like, oh, that's Journey. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
And then
Journey is one of those bands where you roll up to somebody that's like singing "No, Don't Stop Believing" or whatever, and be like, "Oh, you're a Journey fan?" And they're like, "Journey." It's like this song you just sang. Like, people don't realize the songs that are Journey, but more people know Journey than realize they know Journey. Again,
yes, exactly.
I listed off a number of their greatest hits, but like a lot of people hear those songs and they don't even realize that that's Journey. It's again criminal.
It's the burden of the unappreciated in their time artists.
Mm-hmm. It's the epitome of giving somebody flowers while they're here.
Yes, damn it, right?
Because I have a feeling that Steve Perry is going to be one of those dudes that just doesn't truly get the praise he deserves until he's gone. Thank
Yeah.
God he came back to music a few years ago after being out of it for so long.
Yeah.
And I cannot recommend his new album enough. He's got both.
No.
I forget the names of them, forgive me, but he, in the span of like a year and a half, released a regular solo album and a Christmas album
Yes.
with
Yes.
that powerful voicing in songs. And what he did to George Harrison's I Need You is just a thing of beauty, because
know
he
it
took
is.
this moderate rock hit and turned it into this ballad. And
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful.
Absolutely. Oh, so good. Again, criminally underrated BEW sheet. Just flat. Oh,
Coming in at number 4 is a name that I'm surprised Dad didn't have in his top 5, but he did come back and say, "Oh, I forgot about."
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I did star it, so if you can throw that up there for me real quick.
When you're ready. Yep. Yeah.
David Lee Roth,
Yeah.
number 4.
Look at baby DLR. Look at the baby. Oh my god. Shit. Oh my god.
And I mean, like, dude, somebody, I forget who it was, but somebody wrote something, an article about Dave, and it put his voice in a light of something that I had never really thought about before.
Mhm.
And they basically compared his voice to a crooner trying to sing rock and roll music.
Okay.
The person that wrote the article swore that at first, like, it was Tom Jones singing like legitimate rock and roll because of the voice. And then you go back and you listen to like Running with the Devil,
Yeah.
and you can totally hear where they're coming from.
Yeah. No, I
How
agree.
Dave kind of had that crooner style to his voice, especially in the earlier albums.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, one of those things where like maybe he was trying to sing that style of music and it wasn't working for him. So then they just, here,
Do this.
and it clicked, like, for
Yep.
real.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely.
But again, man, you think about Van Halen, you think about Running with the Devil, you think about Beautiful Girls, the entire 1984 album, if we're being honest. Like, I
No.
grew up with that album, but Panama Jump, Hot for Teacher,
Yeah.
and as much as Eddie's guitar defined Van Halen, because that was still there after Dave,
Yeah.
Dave's voice and his presence
Yeah.
is what really took Van Halen to that upper echelon.
No, I agree.
And there's
yeah.
gonna forever be the argument about Dave versus Sammy.
Of course.
And while Sammy Hagar led Van Halen did have some big hits,
They did.
Dreams, Right Now, Humans Being for the Twister soundtrack. I still, to this day, feel that Diamond Dave is Van Halen.
No.
Sammy Hagar is the dude that had a moderate solo career that they needed someone that could fit the mold that David set
Yeah.
without eclipsing the band.
Yeah.
Because Dave got to the point where he was bigger than the band.
Yeah, no, he did.
And that's why he started doing solo albums, which the first EP, Crazy from the Heat, did moderate success.
Yeah.
Primarily because of Just a Gigolo, I Ain't Got Nobody, and his
Right.
cover of the Beach Boys' California Girls, which was an MTV staple.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is in my top 10 cover songs of all time.
Oh, without a doubt.
Fight me.
No, I'm not gonna.
But then once you got past that album, his success in albums steadily decreased,
Yes.
and Sammy and Van Halen kind of steadily increased.
Mm-hmm. But no, I do agree with what you said. David Lee Roth was the voice that defined Van Halen. Sammy Hagar was given the gift of Van Halen.
Absolutely.
I love Sammy. Great artist. But without that band behind him, I don't think he gets where he is.
No.
And Jerry's right there with you on the California Girls cover. So there you go.
How do you think I was introduced to it?
Well,
You got to figure 1984. I was 8 years old.
Yeah. Don't think you were going out and buying the shit yourself.
Introduced me to Van Halen.
Yeah. Yeah. And the whole joke about 80s hair bands. If any other band but Van Halen doesn't define that freaking phrase, please fight me on that shit. Good Lord Almighty, man. All of them. Freaking turn the fans on stage. You're gonna freaking blow the hair into the damn roof.
Right.
It's good shit, pal.
And then there were 3.
Here's where it gets real, kids.
Number 3. I'm not even going to give a huge build up for this one. Number 3 is Jim fucking Morrison.
That's right. Yep.
I mean, again, you want to think about a personality that defined what people think of when they think of rock and roll. They were asked not to say, "Girl, we couldn't get much higher" on Ed Sullivan, and basically went out there, gave a big fuck you to Ed and everybody else, and said it anyways.
This man said told Ed Sullivan to, basically.
And they never appeared on the show again.
Nope.
But how much more rock and roll can you get?
Yeah.
Seriously, because Ed Sullivan was that ground.
Yep.
Back in those days.
Yep.
I mean, you could argue it was like Bandstand and Sullivan.
Yeah. If you alienate one of those two shows, you majority of the time you can kiss your career in your ass goodbye.
But that was their debut album.
Yep.
First or second single, I forget which was first, Break On Through or Light My Fire.
Yeah.
But they were like right there.
Yes.
They still had a decent length career. About 4 or 5 years, again, granted Jim Morrison's tragic passing.
Yeah.
But for the length of time they were on top, that move did not get them canceled like it would in today's society.
Right.
You let somebody do that on a show like Ed Sullivan today, dead.
In the water. Yep. Dead on arrival. No way.
Don't get past first base, like for real.
Yeah.
Back then, somehow it just made them cooler.
Yep. Them doing that, and had they been blackball or whatever, was akin to a comic on Johnny Carson. Oh no, comic on Johnny Carson not getting the little.
Yeah, called over to the couch.
Yeah, you get called over to the couch by Johnny Carson, you are in. But if you have Johnny Carson reject you or don't laugh at your shit, change your profession. Because that's it. You basically give Ed Sullivan a big middle finger and still have the career that the Doors had. And on it, exactly.
The Stones changed. Jim stood up for what he believed in and stood up for the art of it.
Yeah, and you know what? That is admirable of Jim. And, like you said, his tragic passing derailed what could have been.
Yeah.
But I still think... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're still making...
Had he not passed, I think that moment with Ed Sullivan probably still would have lived on. But if they'd had the prolific career, I think you and I both think they would have had, I think it would have been in spite of even further, like as far as the discussion, it's like, man, they did that and they still went on and had 10, 20, whatever it was years. They still whooped that ass.
Yeah.
Even now you still go, man, they still did a lot of amazing stuff in that brief time that Jim had on this planet. Although you can argue Jim was never really fully on this planet, if we're being honest.
In the 4 years, maybe 5, I forget if they really got started in 66 or 67, so forgive me.
Right.
But in their 4 or 5 year run, they still had like 5 albums. So they were averaging an album a year.
Yeah, which back then is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you figure the Beatles were putting out 2 a year, sometimes 3 a year in their early days. But then once they stopped touring and focused more on creating an album, you were getting like 1 a year, 2 if you were lucky.
Yeah.
Those early days when they were still focused on touring, come in, sing the songs, get out. So they were cranking out a machine of like 2, 3. So not that irregular, but still, like back then, an album a year, 2 albums a year was insane.
Yeah. Outside of those groups, and you remember back then, we kind of ha-ha about it a couple weeks ago. The Beatles songs were, some of them were 2 minutes or less. So being able to do stuff like that wasn't difficult. So, the Doors, God, that one Doors song was cut in whatever year it was. It's still playing now. It hasn't finished yet.
For real. When the Music's Over and The End are both like 10 minutes plus.
It's still going. Yeah. It's like
Riders on the Storm is like 7.5 minutes. The unedited version of Light My Fire is like 6.5 or 7 minutes.
Yeah,
Break On Through is like 2.5.
Yeah. Like, all right.
But that comes down to the fact that they were, and excuse the term here because I don't mean this in any disrespect, but they were a stoner band. They were a drug band. Yeah. Jim would come in, he'd seen his verse and his chorus, and then there'd be like 10 minutes of instrumental for you to smoke a joint to before he came back to sing some more.
Yes.
I'm just saying, like,
well, no, you're not wrong.
I know I'm not. My dad is probably both cracking up and like, but he's fucking right.
He's out of line. Yeah, he's not really out of line. Yeah, put it this way: the longest Eagles track. It's not really an Eagles song. It's Joe's song. Life's Been Good. How much of that is verbal? How much of that is freaking instrumental? Because Joe had to take a break.
Right.
It's the era, kids.
Yes.
It is what it is.
Before I move on, I do want to point out to Josh, who did say that he just got here and started the video. Pay attention to the ticker, Josh. Feel free to throw your favorites up. We will click on them and show them on the screen. But if you super chat, we will stop and discuss the names that you're putting into the chat room.
Yes. And I will hop onto that by saying the person was mentioned more than once in the chat. So somebody wants super chat, we'll come back to it.
So moving from Jim Morrison, I'm going to move to number 2. And this one, I'm actually kind of surprised my dad didn't have in his list.
Yeah.
He threw Grace Slick in there, who, if I'm being completely honest, Pop, I just completely spaced on her.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Because unfortunately, when it comes to Jefferson Airplane, there's only like 2 songs of theirs that I really like.
Right.
And I just, as great of a vocalist as Grace is, I just completely forget about her a lot of the time. And then, of course, we touched on Mick being an honorable mention. You forgetting DLR, mentioning that in a separate comment. But number 2 is a name that I'm very surprised you didn't have in your list, Pop. And that is Roger Daltrey of The Who. And it's funny because I made the joke to CC probably a week or so ago. And it's a damn shame that there's an entire generation of kids, if you will, that only know The Who as the theme songs to NCIS.
Right. It's still cool that they've lived on and been able to be part of that, but like, man, there's so much freaking onion to peel. Damn. Oh. There's lots to unpack there, if you will. Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's Jerry's Marty McFly Roddy Piper moment right there.
Hopefully that makes up for the fact that Mick's an honorable mention.
Probably not. We're being honest.
But yeah, I mean, man, you think about the Who and Pinball Wizard, My Generation, Won't Get Fooled Again, you know, Baba O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Just so many great songs of theirs, man. See Me, Feel Me from Tommy.
That one creeped me out as a kid.
I can understand why.
Yeah. Yeah. It came on the radio down there driving. I was like,
you?
What was that?
You know, Who Are You?
That one too. Like, I don't know why. Who are, like, just, I guess just the way the words came out with the music being intertwined, it was just like, that was a little weird.
I could be wrong, but that's probably the first time I heard a cuss word in a song, you know.
That's
because
true.
of him asking, "Who the fuck are you?"
Right. Well, I didn't hear that because I was on care. They didn't have the effort go out back then.
No, of course
You know.
not. But you know, popping his vinyl, like I
Well,
would
hey,
hear
yeah,
I would hear the albums, like.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I just Roger Daltrey, in his time, he got the flowers he deserved.
Yep.
Nowadays, I feel like he's become a forgotten vocalist.
And again, that's another criminal example of BEW sheet. It's
because again, there's an entire generation of kids that only know the Who as the theme songs to like NCIS and CSI and that shit, like for real.
But at least this generation hears something and they have the itch to Google it and find out what it is.
Not everybody, though. There's a lot of people that hear that song every week on the shows and they don't even know it's the Who.
No. I guess luckily my boy is.
They just think it's some random TV show theme.
Oh, well, I guess luckily for me, my boy was trained to absorb knowledge and find out what you're listening to rather than just randomly just play shit for the sake of playing shit. But then again, you know, Dylan, you know, basically, you know, with YouTube video help self-taught himself with guitar. So, you know, that's why Metallica was such a thing. Because, you know, the guitar, this isn't a guitarist, but, you know, that music inspired him to sit there and just, so. Some of this generation's not totally lost. Some of them beyond the point of no return. And that's okay too. That's their parents' bad.
Yes.
Our kids, by God, will be educated.
Absolutely. It's like,
especially with number one.
Well, yes. Especially with number one, because number one is arguably, you want to talk about a charismatic frontman? Check. You want to talk about rock and roll attitude? Check.
Yep.
You want to talk about amazing songwriting? Check. You want to talk about an amazing voice? Check. Freddie Mercury comes in at number one.
And here come the comments, folks. So here we go.
Yep. Tim was like, said Freddie is in his top 5.
So then Jerry put the 10 up, and again, we got the justifiable shit for lack of Mick. You know, but Freddie's right
Morrison,
there.
Perry, and Freddie all on the list.
Yep. And then, you know, again, King Mike with his, and there you
Chester,
go.
Steven Tyler, Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance, Brendan Urie, Panic at the Disco, and Chris Jericho. Because he can't stop talking about wrestling.
But that's okay, because Jericho's definitely an honorable mention for both of us. Me more so because I actually got to see him, you know, see Fozzy do their thing. So, but yeah, it's Freddie, much like Jim, much like quite a few of these people. They don't go early tragically. They can still be going now.
And this may be a hot take, so feel free to sound off in the comments section if you agree or disagree with me. Queen is not near as legendary as they are today without fucking Bohemian Rhapsody and Wayne's World.
Legendary staying power, I think I'll agree, because
I mean,
and
don't
Dame
get me
is-
wrong. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. They had the hits.
No.
But
they
even
didn't.
by the time Wayne's World came around, they were already like being forgotten about, and Freddie was still alive.
Yeah.
Without Bohemian Rhapsody and Wayne's World to, again, much like Steven Tyler we talked about, expose them to a new generation, Queen doesn't achieve the legendary status that they are today.
Yeah, I'll kind of. I agree and I don't, and again, for me, it's a much more of a personal thing, because there was two consistent CDs or cassettes, if we're going to go back as far as we can, that were always in our car, especially my dad's car. The Eagles' First Greatest Hits album from 1971, 1975, the blue album with the eagle skull on it, and then the Queen Greatest Hits Burgundy cover album.
Mm-hmm.
Always playing, always in rotation, especially my dad's car. So I would always hold Queen in that regard.
And I'm sure that there's some people out there that would even still, because being raised on the music. But I'm talking about as far as like the greater society goes.
Well, right. That's where I was going. I was just taking a breath there. Queen was always around us, but I don't remember Queen being talked about at school all the time, or out in public, if you will, Death Road, all the time. But when that movie came out, and at the same time Freddie passed for the reason he passed, all of a sudden it was like, he's a legend, they're the greatest ever. And again, personally, I'm a fan, always have been, always will be. But again, Jerry makes a great point there. My dad, and again, there's the comment from Mike about my dad taking my son to the show was for Metallica was just freaking cool. I wish to God.
I was going to get to that in a minute, because he super chatted and then put that up.
Oh, okay. Again, not everything's popping up. I think my computer has issues, boys and girls. Anyway, I wish to God we could have been able to take Dylan, or even Dad take me to see Queen. Because my dad always tells the story, because Jerry mentioned We Will Rock You as far as living on for that song. I think that song, We're the Champions, will always be together because of the radio play, and because of they're basically the same song, just back to back. And Bohemian Rhapsody, of course, being what it is now more so, but also with Wayne's World. My dad went and saw Queen at the Forum back in whatever it was. And in the center of the old layout of the Forum, it was basically kind of like an in the round setup back then. So in the middle of a Forum, this giant crown. Just picture kind of looking like this. The lights dim a little bit, so something's about to happen, and it's really slow at first, and then it picks up to the actual beat of the song. And then as the lyrics start to get to the point where you shut the lyrics, here comes Freddie and the band out of that crown, and you got, figure the Forum, 18 and change, just. Our parents' generation would argue that Queen had that presence, and they were destined for iconic status. But by the late 80s, early 90s, they were, as you said, almost just there. Because Freddie gotten sick, yes. Because they weren't recording, yes. And that's fine. But Freddie's voice, Freddie's presence, Freddie's Freddiness just kept Queen and him on the tips of our tongues, on the edge of our, speak when it came to rock and roll talk on the regular. And, Jerry mentioned Freddie and Mick are opposites but equals. Both of them had that presence where they would just walk around on stage and they would almost like strut and wiggle the hips on the regular. That's just who they were / Mick still is. How he's not throwing his hip out at his age is hysterical to me, because he's still moving like he did when the Stones were freaking first starting. It's like, how are you not freaking Jim Carrey and like throwing your hip this way and the rest of you this way? You're a freaking, he's an alien being. I swear to God, he's from another planet. Love Mick Jagger, but goddamn. But I think that, again, one of the few regrets I have in my musical fandom life is not being able to see Queen in person.
That's fair.
Saw Queen Nation, who are an amazing cover of Queen. I saw them at freaking Saga Speedway. That's how little known they were at the time. They're awesome now, of course. And then, I think if anybody would have been the perfect, okay, it's not Freddie, but we'll take it, Adam Lambert. Because that kid just has such a presence. It'll never match Freddie Mercury's at all.
No.
You can't. It's an unfair comparison. But Freddie's presence, every time I've seen a video of him, every time I've seen an interview of him, he just commands not just the room, he commands the entire building he's in. And it's so cool. And yes, to your point though, JJ, I think Bohemian Rhapsody, as one of the best songs ever written and performed, I don't think it gets to play past 1991-92 without Mike and Dana going, this scene needs this. Hot take, as you said, but I don't disagree with it.
There you go.
Because that scene with them rocking out and the hair going every which way, which was such an 80s hair band reference, and Queen was not an 80s hair band, really. It just worked. It connected with everybody in the audience in some way. And that was the key to the scene.
Yeah. That scene was so integral to the success of Wayne's World that when they did the Bohemian Rhapsody biopic, Mike Myers played the A&R guy for the record company that tried to squash Bohemian Rhapsody as a single, talking about kids aren't going to drive around banging their heads to this song.
It's like
long-term storytelling. Like, that's how integral that was to the success of Wayne's World. That Mike Myers, who really hadn't had a hit since Shrek died, came and did that scene and played that role because of what that song did for his career.
Yeah. Mike Myers, as prolific as he is as a comedic actor and performer, never forgets what got him here. It was people like Steven Tyler, who we mentioned earlier. It was bands like Queen, who Wayne's World just, yes. It's the vision of Lorne Michaels telling Mike and Dana, you guys do you. I got you. And it's acts like this that made Wayne's World. Yes, if you really break it down, the Wayne's World phenomenon was like 3 years, maybe 4.
Yeah.
But it made such an impact that we still talk about it in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of people like Steven Tyler and Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
At least in large part because of their musical presence on the skits or the movies.
Yep. Going back real quick, King Mike did send in another super chat. You kind of briefly touched on it, but
oh, yes. Story of Grandpa taking your son to the show was the best, even though my grandpa didn't take me to a rock show with the Eagles. I used to drag him around and take me everywhere. Rest in peace to your grandfather. Absolutely, Mike. My dad is that guy. He always has been. Dad, JJ knows this. It's like King games primarily, yes. But that was also his mother taking him to his first Kings game back in 1968, and just us being that family. Going to, sporting events, going to music concerts. I almost said music shows because I'm that freaking tired. Concerts is the word, Jeffrey. Lord Almighty. Falling in love with the idea of concert going to the point that I became a merchandise man for one of my best friends just to be part of the Sunset Strip experience.
Yeah.
Which, God, you talk about freaking lead singers and frontmans and rock and roll on the Sunset Strip. Let's just have another hour and a half, shall we? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Because holy crap. It's epic to me, Mike, because I'm sitting there in the parking lot waiting for my son and my father to come back from seeing a Metallica concert together. And I'm going, my life is weird, but I'm okay with it. My 68-year-old father and my 15-year-old son are watching Metallica together. I'm just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
My life's cool. I can fuck with this.
Definitely a show you need to see at some point.
Yeah, I know.
I was lucky enough to see them in a festival setting.
Oh man, there you go.
It was the summer sanitarium tour, so it was Mudvayne, Deftones, Linkin Park, one of the 3 times.
Yeah.
Limp Bizkit, who got booed off stage.
Shit.
And Metallica.
Sounds about right.
Because it was during the whole "it's cool to hate Fred Durst" era. And Limp Bizkit, I actually was looking forward to seeing.
Yeah,
I was always a Limp Bizkit fan.
Absolutely.
And just the way that the fans, like, I kid you not, dude, watching Limp Bizkit on stage was akin to watching Dominic Mysterio try to cut a promo on Raw.
Oh no! That poor kid last night again.
For real though, like I get that Fred is a controversial figure, but like
no, I know.
You knew you were going to see him when y'all bought your tickets.
Yeah. Why? Yeah, seriously.
And you knew that they were going to be the semi-main event because Linkin Park was big, but not as big as Limp Bizkit.
No, of course not.
And the tour was Metallica's.
Right.
So you knew they were going to be the semi-main. So like,
yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Yeah. No. Put it this way. You're talking about I should see Metallica at least once. I don't know if I told you there's a tour, not a tour, but like a weekend coming up out here pretty soon, actually. First weekend of the weekend of Fastlane, 6, 7, 8 October. The weekend before the Kiddies are in Vegas. Friday night, Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden. Saturday night, AC/DC and Judas Priest. Sunday, Metallica and Tool. Now, Kings gave away tickets to that festival for that silly like hairband like rubber guitar thing they do. I saw the price breakdown for that, and I'm like, if I know that, I would have tried to play and win that shit. That's some expensive ass tickets, but look who's on the freaking bill here, like son of a bitch.
Yeah. The problem is that there's only one band each night I'd want to see.
Well,
I'd want to see Guns. I'd want to see AC/DC. I'd want to see Metallica. I don't care about Iron Maiden. Don't care about Judas Priest. Don't care about Tool.
I would want to see Tool because of my buddy doing his cover band. Arizona Bay covers them. So I want to see Tool just to get, again, didn't hear Tool music before I saw Arizona Bay. Didn't hear Guns N' Roses before I heard the Kiddies. So the comparison would be in my brain. But, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, it's, again, not everybody's cup of tea, but they're on the bill. Shit, might as well, since they're here, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't boo them off the stage like they did to Limp Bizkit.
Right.
But it would be kind of like Mudvayne and the Deftones for me. It's like, I know one song each for those bands.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Run to the Hills for Maiden and Breaking the Law for Judas Priest.
Right.
Tool, I don't even know if I know a Tool song. I'd actually have to Google their discography and see if there's a song of theirs I know.
That's fair.
But
That's fair.
But the other two, I know I at least know one song. So I'd just be like sitting on my thumbs until they played the song. Be like, oh, they did the thing. I know that song.
when
And
you
both
get
of
you
those
in
I
a,
only know because of Beavis and Butthead.
when you get you in a white dress shirt and blue pants when you do that, they did the thing, just to have the visual. But yeah, it's stuff like that, and you figure all these iconic, whatever you want to use, is because of bands like this and frontmen like this, where it's like you want to have the experience of it.
Yeah.
That's what music should be, I think, is the experience of it. Yes, the songs are great. The music is what brings you. The words are what bring you, but it's the experience of them that binds us together with music for me.
Agreed. And we've given our lists. We've given our honorable mentions. So if you did not hear somebody get mentioned that you would like us to discuss,
yes,
super chat. Simple as that.
Because we about to start chilling.
Yes. Otherwise, yeah. Excuse me.
And once the chills begin, it's almost time to go home, kids. So
yes. So go ahead, sir, and begin the shills.
We will do our thing. So the next time you see us do our thing as the dads, not always on wrestling, will be a wrestling-centric show as we talk about the greatest managers in the history of the business. And yes, the props are there because they are there. You know who we're going to talk about, at least in parts. And again, that's not everybody represented there. Keep that in mind as well. So who will we pick as our greatest wrestling managers of all time? Tune in 2 weeks. That is Fastlane weekend, the same weekend I was talking about with the Power Trip concerts. So check us out in 2 weeks. And then the following show, 2 weeks after that, will be the weekend of Bound for Glory, as we, on Friday, October 20th, talk about the top 10 Scream Queens of all time. So as we head into Halloween, which will be 11 days after that. So that's just what's coming up for us.
Yes.
I did say in the description, today's a 2 for Tuesday.
Yes.
As we do on Tuesdays, every Tuesday, Stat Boy Sports Bar is open. JJ with the beautifully written and chilled verbiage here. The beer is ice cold. The food is hot. The seats are warm. The conversation is plentiful. So check us out Tuesday afternoons, including today, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific. It should be Stat Boy and Stat Girl Dori Lou today. I don't know if that's 100% confirmed in the lineup, but I'm pretty sure that's who we're going to get.
I do know that part of the show is going to be his fantasy NHL draft.
Yes.
So I will be popping into that towards the end to participate in that.
Okay, cool. I'll be here at the button as I do.
Yes.
Tomorrow, another twofer as we talk about, there it is, the Greg Cherry Show, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific. I don't know if I'm going to be here, and I'm not allowed to discuss why on the air because I don't want to get in trouble. But that will be our.
We'll just say that you have some errands that may not be completed in time.
Yes.
That's the best way to get around that.
There you go. I appreciate you. And that'll be our lead in, our pre-show, if you will, across the multiverse as we present our watch along of AEW Grand Slam, the Dynamite Night, Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific, immediately after Greg Cherry Show. You can catch the video of it on TBS, but do you really listen to Excalibur for 2 hours? No, of course you don't. So check us out, Noah Foster and the Renegade JJ on the call, because they're the real Hall of Famers. Sorry, Excalibur. Sorry, not sorry. Anyway, Thursday.
Cape Rare, good to see you, even though you're tardy.
Hey, oh, you did, but that's okay. On demand's your friend, my friend.
That's right. You can always leave a super sticker or a super thanks.
That's it. There
if
you go.
Enjoy the show that way.
Yes. Thursday will be another twofer as we present Night 2 coverage of Impact 1000 across the multiverse, as I said. And then that will be immediately followed by the flagship, the mothership, if you will, baby. Talk Wrestling goes live. I say after Impact 1000 because I doubt it's going to be over at 10 o'clock on the button. So we're going to go ahead and go live when I can. And that'll be on No DQ as well. Not the watch along, but we will take Talk Wrestling to its home, if you will, because, damn it, it should be on there, as well as across the entirety multiverse. Greg Cherry brand, Constantine Studios, James' channel, Noah's channel, my channel, of course.
Last week's Impact 1000 went about 15 minutes over, so I expect this week's to do the same.
Very likely. It is pre-taped at least, so maybe they'll give us away early, or give us a heads up how long exactly they're going to go. You never know with Impact Wrestling, nor you know what, and I prefer it that way, if we're being honest. It's always good to have a little bit of surprise in our lives every now and again.
Yeah, at least give the illusion that it's live.
Yes, we can use our illusion and pretend it's live. Anyway, I'm trying to get an image of it, is why I was trying to stall, but I'll go ahead and keep going. I'll come back to it momentarily. Friday is not a twofer. We do have a live episode, or not a live to tape episode of Renegades Reviews going up on Friday, as we do on the Casa, but we will also have our coverage of Rampage Grand Slam on Friday night, and that's starting at 10 o'clock Eastern, because they're on after SmackDown, because even Tony Khan is not full enough to go up against the number one show on WWE television right now, because, you know.
Well, and see, for us West Coasters, it leads into SmackDown.
That's true. That's true, because we get it on both coasts at the same time, 7 o'clock our time. So that is the case. Very, very true.
That's how I'm actually able to do these televised watch-alongs with Noah for this, is because we get AEW at East Coast times.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And then, of course, Saturday.
WWE.
Yes. Saturday, of course, our shenanigans aplenty, as they do. Open mic night. Saturdays, 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 Pacific. They seem to want to keep giving us topics, JJ, so I'm not going to tell them no. Just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Why am I echoing? What the hell's going on? Oh, that's why. Nope. It's not why. There we go. Sorry.
Good. But yeah, the Saturday night shenanigans that are open mic night every Saturday, 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 Eastern.
Yes.
Don't know what my topics will be this week yet, but we'll just have to wait and see. But we are still looking for contestants for Haunted Hangman.
Yes, that'll be coming.
Emmanuel. Yes, Emmanuel will be the defending champion. We're not positive if Arlene is going to be able to participate as of yet, because her work is what her work is.
Yes.
So we're asking for people to super chat to be contestants. If Arlene is able to participate, then she will be the contestant. If she is not able to participate, the super chatter will be the contestant. So
either way, we will have somebody.
Yeah, and for whatever reason you super chat to be a contestant and Arlene is able to make it, you will just become contestant for the next show,
which will be in
January. Price is Right.
Price is Right.
Unless we want to try and do a trio, since Wheel of Fortune usually has 3 contestants.
That's fair. That's a fair point. We'll have to reevaluate that off air. We'll talk about that.
I say it just comes down to if Arlene's available or not. If Arlene's available, we can make it a 3-way, panel contestants.
Right.
If she's not there, it can be 1-on-1.
Yeah, there you go. Either way.
Yeah. But we'll make it work. But yeah, Haunted Hangman coming up towards the end of October.
Yes.
Our Halloween episode of Open Mic Night.
Yes. And after this week, the next time we will be doing watch along coverage, which is JJ's NXT. Damn it. No mercy at the end of the month, man. And the next week. It's gonna be crazy. I, of course, will be in Pasadena doing my spookies, but we'll talk more about that later this week. I was stalling because I was trying to find the image you sent me of the announcement they made on Impact, but it for some reason didn't come off as a JPEG or a PNG, so I did find it. We have not been on air together, you and I, a lot to talk about it, but I did want to congratulate Tracy Brooks again.
Yeah.
Friend of the channel, husband of a friend of the channel, a wife of the friend of the channel, Frankie Kazarian. Just so happy for Tracy. If anybody should be an Impact Hall of Famer, it's the original Knockout, by God. So very happy for Trace.
Yeah. I mean,
such a cool moment the other night.
It really was, and it was an emotional moment getting to see Frankie set the video up and
so great.
It, and seeing their son in the ring with them. Like, it was just one of those moments.
It's fun for me that Frankie's not in the Hall of Fame yet, is he?
No.
I think it's cool that he's introducing her into the Hall of Fame. I think that's a cool thing. Bound for Glory 05 was not a bad show. It was a good little I mean, you had the dynamic with Rhino and Jarrett there. So not a bad outing for the Impact brand, the TNA brand, if you will. So, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure I threw it out there as soon as I possibly could because I kind of glazed over yesterday because I couldn't get the damn image to work. But congrats to Tracy Brooks and congrats to everybody involved with Impact. Mike and Don are both going in too, which god damn it, that's overdue as hell. But we digress as we do. Buy the shirts over at Teespring, over Pro Wrestling Tees. That's really because he's still active and doesn't want to be probably pulling the Flair and Sting option, like doesn't want to necessarily yet.
Yeah.
He's definitely, if there's next division wing, he's the one at the front of it. For being honest. I only say that because of the long term and the prolific amount of times he held the title compared to other than Saban, who is breaking his own record every friggin' week.
I was gonna say, I love me some Frankie, but I think towards the front of that wing has got to be guys like Styles, Daniels, Joe, Saban, Petey.
Well, Saban definitely.
Frankie.
Yeah, okay. All right. We're gonna agree to disagree on that. I think fair.
I love Frankie. I love Frankie.
I know you do.
But I just feel like those names that I named were a little bit more history making in the division than Frankie was.
Here's what they do. They take 1 year because sometimes when they do the Impact Hall of Fame, they usually only do 1 or 2 inductees. Should be 1 year where it's just like, all right, we're gonna blow this shit wide open, have the entire X division from that era just all going together. There you go. Boom. Done. And then sell tickets and charge through the ass because people will come.
Absolutely.
I promise you that. AJ, Daniels, Joe, Frankie, Saban, Shelly, freaking Lethal. Yeah. People will line up. But yeah. All the tickets will be gone. It'll be a thing. And then, nobody can sell out. Impact will call your bullshit on that one.
For real.
Anyways, we're going off into the weeds because that's what we do. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know it was early on Tuesday, but as JJ said, we always do better live, and I think it just flows better when we do live because we just go off the cuff and not have to worry about the minutia of oh god, we got to edit that. Nah, put it out. I enjoy it.
I agree. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. Thank you to those that super chatted.
Yes, much appreciated.
Greatly appreciate that. And until Statboy Sports Bar later on this afternoon, he is the West Coast Professor Jeff Meacham. I am the Renegade JJ Williams. Thank you all for tuning in to the Dads Not Always on Wrestling Top 10 Rock and Roll Lead Singers. And we will see you guys next time.